All right, guys. Sorry, I always sit there silence because I never know if the broadcast has started. Sometimes Google takes a while for it to load. Anyway, I'm Jason Enos. This is kind of like nighttime doing this. I never have done one of these in the evening before. I've done announcements in the evening before, but never this. By the way, these solo cups you see, those are not like filled with anything not kid friendly. By the way, there's red solo cups everywhere. Long story short, this is my water thing, my water cup, and then I got my soda cup over there because I don't want to get them confused. You don't want to be drinking ink water. But anyway, I'm continuing with Allison Zombieland, page 5 that I've started. I've got quite a bit done. I inked a lot of the lines at work, a lot of the straight lines, but a lot of the other ones I did in the last video. And I've been saving the best one for the last. Little zombie rabbit there. Well, it's not really a zombie. It's kind of a carnivorous monster. Anyway, Black Star ink, P.H. Martin's. Not a free plug. It's just really good ink. I like it. It's thick. Gives you a nice good black. You don't have to go over it multiple times. Sometimes you do if the paper's kind of got something on it, like pencil lines. You have to go over it twice so it soaks in the paper nicely. But usually it flows off the brush well. This is my Raphael 8404 brush, number 2. I love it. I just got it recently. Just started using it. The other thing I need to have handy, of course, besides is paper rags. And one other thing I forgot to actually get out before the broadcast started was brush soap. Always good to have this handy. This is the brush soap I always use just for cleaning my inking brushes. I've set up the camera. I hope I've set it up good. Yeah, kind of. I could use a little bit steeper of an angle on it. By setting up the camera, I mean angling my laptop so you can see. That's basically what happens with this. It's going to be an odd angle just because it is the panel that's the furthest from the camera. But at least you'll be able to see kind of where my hand is and where I won't get in the way. Anyway, you can see that. Oh, you can actually see the palette too, which is good. I always load the brush, get a lot of ink on there, and then twirl the brush so I got a nice point on it. I've done some work with the brush today, mostly painting. I haven't painted yet today, technically. I have handled the brush though in a non-painting sense. Anyway, I did an earlier demo of mixing colors and stuff. So I'm just kind of going all raggedy with the lines and not caring because it's you really can't care. It's you know, hairs and stuff. So a little bit of raggedy lines, kind of intentional. But that's kind of a long story short. So there's that. Kind of just tearing into it. Usually I'm not this well prepared for video. Usually I'm having to set up and send links and stuff. And YouTube's been giving me some real troubles with starting the video. So I've been able to get the video links before the video broadcast starts. So I'm able to share the links to all the media outlets that people follow me on. Oh, I didn't send it to digital webbing. Oh, I forgot to do that. Well, I'll share it later. But I'm just kind of going to town with it already. Just using my brush. And I'm going to probably show you what I've been working on with the next page because this is the only completed page of pencils I have left. I literally got pages 4 and 5 done approximately at the same time. And so I've been kind of sitting on them for a while I've been working on other pages and had other responsibilities to handle. So I kind of got all that stuff done. And I'm doing that. And like I said, while I got the other things done, a couple lines I missed. I didn't do the lines here yet. I usually do some things with pencil, some things with ruler. Missed one line up there. At least some of the ink got scuffed off or something. But there we go. Notice how close I'm holding the brush, by the way. I didn't even mention that in a lot of my other videos. And at this point, I'm really inking off the edge of the page and it really doesn't matter because the trim lines are here, which means probably this will be cut off when I crop it. But I don't mind getting it all the way to the edge just in case it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. I mean, I'm really just going to town on this page already. I've been waiting to do this page for a long time. And normally I do these videos on Friday afternoons because usually I'm off on Fridays. This week it was a Tuesday that I was off, which usually it's a Tuesday that I'm off, so I was able to do a little bit of videos today, and which is kind of unusual because usually I do them in the afternoon instead of in the evening. And usually I'm going out with my wife on an evening. But since it's a school night, and not a Friday night, give me the opportunity to do an evening video for a change. Which means if I got friends in Sacramento, who am I saying? Which means my friends in Sacramento can probably watch this for the first time live. I've got a lot of artist friends in the Sacramento area. I work with this comic called that I do inking for called Trixie Dynamite. That was actually my first foray into published comics. And so I've made a lot of friends through just online forums with those guys and stuff. Just kind of going to town with some thicker lines here. And usually if I start with a chiseled line, I'll sometimes start at the end of the chisel rather than flip it up, just to avoid any kind of mess-ups. And if you notice, I move the paper around constantly. I never leave the paper in one position while I ink. Very rarely do I do that. I always want the best angle for the best possible line. All right, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next. Part of the problem is I want to do this line here along this part of his jacket, and I don't want to get into wet ink. Yeah, I'll skip that for now and go back to that. I do hop around the page quite a bit, which is a recipe for getting ink all over the page, but all right, now I've got to be patient when I do the eyes, because the eyes to me are one of the most important parts. Oh, I'll get my beard in there. And I just realized I made a rabbit pun. I'm hopping around the page a bit. Wow, really? I really just made that accidentally. Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to be orderly about this and start in places at the top of the page and work my way down, so I'm not going to accidentally smear my ink like I did right there. You can see the corner of her mouth. It's good enough. I mean, it's a good corner of the mouth, but I'm still going to probably Photoshop it out because I didn't mean to do that. Definitely didn't mean to do that. And it turns out, kind of interestingly enough, I do have a couple fans for the comic. I don't know if it's accidental or on purpose in other parts of the world. So this might be their first time to actually see me working on this live. I don't know. Some people, I don't even know how they got to know my comic, honestly. You think, well, it's on the internet, everybody can see it. Yeah, anybody can see it, but that doesn't mean anybody does. So I don't know how it happened, but you know, I don't know if they're still fans, but I had at one point Polish people from Poland. I think I got a couple people from India that liked the Pit comic, and I'm just like, thanks. I don't know how you found me, but you know, thank you. Then the company I work for does have offices all around the world. Not in Poland, but in India certainly. So maybe somebody found me through the company. I don't know. I do have a couple people that liked the page that were company employees, which I thought was kind of nice. Of course, I did do something about. Oh, that was in a. I thought that was a curve of the curtain. It wasn't. Oh well. It'll be a good shadow line. There we go. That's actually the curve of his ear. I didn't mean to ink it that heavily dark, but oh well. Yeah, I can probably trim some of that back afterwards. But, I mean, it almost doesn't matter. I mean, this line's going to be a little bit thicker, too. Yeah, I might thicken up the outlines of that part anyway. Just kind of make it, yeah, I kind of like that. And if I do the same things in other places, it's not going to be as noticeable. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, like I said, the eyes going to be the tricky part because it's going to set the whole thing in the face. It'll be curved down there and wobbly. There we go. Okay, getting harder to see. Sorry, folks. Smear a little bit of it. Oh, gee. Well, the good news is the part I smeared is going to be part of a whisker anyway, so it's just going to help add a little bit more to it. There we go. All right. And I might probably ink every single whisker, and I might do something in Photoshop with white. And I had thought about masking out, but I was like, I don't know if I want to go through the business of masking because sometimes the masking doesn't look quite like you'd like it, hope it would. And make that a little bit darker. Yeah, there we go. There we go. And I might go ahead and make that a little bit darker. There we go. All right. Where to next? Dots like that. There we go. Ooh, it's looking pretty fearsome. I knew it looked pretty good with black and white, but I wasn't sure how good. I'm not trying to be boastful. But a lot's riding on this little guy. If he doesn't look scary enough, it's not gonna. A lot of the comics not gonna make sense. To me, when I was developing the idea for this comic, the first thing I thought was, this guy had better be pretty gruesome looking, or it's gonna kind of like seem very milk toast, very weak, and I didn't want that. Because I don't want an all-out horror story either, but at the same time, if he's not at least somewhat intimidating, this whole thing kind of goes to pot. So he's got to be pretty intense anyway. All right, let's go ahead and get that in there. All right, let's go ahead and do this. By the way, I think these videos would be enhanced by music, but YouTube poo-poos on people that listen to music while they do these videos. It's considered broadcasting like a radio station because you're not paying them rights to do that. And I get it. It just makes this a little bit more of a boring process for me, and I'm sure probably for you as well. I love listening to music. My other line of study in college was actually, what do you call that? Music composition. So to have to sit here in silence and just flap my gums the entire video is kind of disappointing to me. I wish I could listen to at least some music, but they don't do that. So. And there's probably other venues where I could post videos and do them live. I actually know there's an artist that I've seen that goes to other places to do live videos, just so that he can do, listen to music while he does these things. And that is a consideration, but I don't know. I just like being able to do it on YouTube or Google because YouTube captures it, and I know other places capture it too. But it's just, I don't know. I just like the fact that Google's kind of, one of those that's out there that people can find a little bit easier. And these other websites, they don't really load as well. Not that Google's been giving me the easiest of times anyway with Google Hangouts. It's been kind of tricky sometimes. But I don't know, I'd rather make it where it's easier for people to find than to go to some gimmicky site that I barely know. Put the teeth back there. Making sure you're not getting a screen full in my head. All right, so far that's our progress. See if I can rotate it so you guys can at least see most of it. Which is kind of unusual that I'm able to make this last a little bit longer. Usually this dries up pretty quickly. The ink, I mean. I think some of it might have to do with this very pleasant fall day. I'm actually in South Carolina. It's been a very pleasant day today. So I'm thinking some of it might have to do with the weather change. Heat does help ink dry faster, kind of obvious. Obviously it does. But kind of not really doing its thing here today, which is kind of nice. I feel like I've been wasting less ink today. I only squeezed out a little bit, and using most of it for a long period of time. All right, this curve is going to go this way. And then the second one. Oh, did I smear that too? I thought that was dry already. Doing hover hand because I can't tell what's wet, what's dry. It looks dry and yet it's still smeared. Let me do one thing. I've been having a lot of this problem with this on this page only, where it smears. I don't know why that is. Might be because I'm working faster than I ever have on the other pages. Some of the other pages I'd be like really crawling through them and taking my time and talking about stuff, and lately I've been able to fly through these pages pretty quickly and just like, oh, let me go ahead and put this work down and get this work in. And that might be some of it that I'm working faster than I ever have. I can remember when I first started my first video, man, I was like drawing at epically slow pace. The first one I ever did online was the David Yarden piece. Daniel Yarden, the Injustice page I did as a test. That's kind of what inspired the whole thing. Like, that was all it was going to be, was just me doing that video at one time. Or that series of videos, I should say. That's all it was going to be. And then I kind of was like, oh, let me just kind of keep doing it because it encourages me to work hard. It has encouraged me to do more work more frequently instead of just veg out on my days off. Which is kind of good because I'd sit around and be unproductive and then be depressed that I was unproductive. Whereas if I do these videos and I'm like, oh wow, I did something. I actually did a video and actually accomplished something. I got part of my comic done. Stuff like that. So actually, it was a positive thing for me instead of just, oh, I got to do these videos. I don't feel like I have to do these videos at all. Not one moment do I feel like I'm like having to do these things. I enjoy doing them a lot. As I've said before, I would have been a teacher if I had my way, but the economy downturn, I was just like, I'm not going to bother going for my master's degree. Why go for a master's degree when, artistic jobs are being cut across the board? I know it sounds kind of defeatist, but I mean, when you see people being laid off that have had tenured positions because departments are being cut, how am I, as the new person, going to be able to fight, compete with tenured professionals who are already on the market that need jobs? And I said, that's not worth it. And I'm not going to sink myself into debt trying to pay off, trying to get that kind of a job that I'd be an inexperienced person at. What I'm going to do is, while this page is drying, I'm deciding if I don't want to darken any more of the lines. I'm going to go ahead and fill in some of these tiles here. And you're seeing the top of my head again. Let me move it closer to me so I don't have to lean down as far under you can still see it. And a good friend and I had a discussion about these tiles. I originally have them white and black. I think I'm going to switch that. I have page 4 kind of released already with black and white tiles, but I think I'm going to go back, recolor the tiles red and black. Good reason for it? Well, the good reason for it is because red and black are playing card colors. So it kind of made sense. And there's this thing right here. So I'm going to recolor the floor tiles as white, not as white and black tiles, but as red and black. I mean, it's just a simple overlay of a red color on top of the white tiles. But it seems to kind of make sense with the whole, playing cards or, Wonderland kind of thing. And even though my storyline is kind of an original storyline, it does play homage to a lot of the things that Lewis Carroll did in his first book. With mathematics, and I mean, it's not going to get too much into mathematics, but there's a lot of math puns hidden in Alice in Wonderland. My favorite one that I've ever read about was when Alice is falling down, she's like trying to count her 4 tables, and she's like, "Oh, I'll never get to 4 at this rate." And it sounds like absolute gibberish, but it's absolute gibberish if you do it on the decimal system. If you switch to base 4 instead of base 10, like decimal, all the math she does makes sense, because it goes from being example the number 4 in base 4. You have digits 0 through 3 in base 4. You don't have 4, 5, 6, 4 through 9. So base 4, the number 4 would be represented by 10, because you go from 3 automatically to 10. So when she says I'll never get to 4 at this rate, she's not kidding, because on base 4 you don't even have the number 4 in the system. Like binary is just 1s and 0s. That's 2 digits, and base 4 is 4. So it's like binary, except you have 2 more numbers. So and I never understood that as a kid, and I don't think kids get that. And I don't know if a lot of people understood that. I had to read that online. On a lot of the discussions have to do with philosophical arguments about mathematical schools of thought. And I didn't even know that stuff, and I'm fascinated by mathematics, so I was like, okay, games, fascinated with that. Mathematics, fascinated with the possibilities of mathematics. So you take all that, wrap that in a nonsense story, which a lot of it plays on nursery rhymes and common school lessons that people would have to recite mindlessly. It kind of makes the whole thing a lot more interesting. So it's more than just a child's nonsense book. It really is a book about making fun of education, or I should say educational precepts, and other things too. Gaming theory. I realize Allison needs some strands in her hair. I try not to be too liberal with the lines in her hair. I try to make that happen in the coloring stages. But I do want a few lines to kind of describe the curve of how her head kind of naturally flows. Not so many as to be heavy in weight and boring, but enough to kind of give you a little bit of a flipping of her hair. My only concern right now is the White Rabbit, the furry edge is a little bit weak. But if I make it bolder, it might make it too thick and not readable as fur, is my only concern. All I can do is thicken up some of the bottom parts. If I don't like it, I can stop and not do anything more to it. No, I kind of like that, actually. Yeah, that plays a lot better. Yeah, that's a lot better. I was worried about it not looking good, but it surely looks much better than I thought. Yeah, that helps to pop a little bit. And I'm actually running out of ink for the first time in this entire video. Okay, her hair might still be wet, so I gotta be careful putting on there. You're seeing my chin again, sorry again. And we're gonna go ahead and do this, a bit darker. Pop in some things here. Yeah. I like constantly rotating the page so I can see it with fresh eyes instead of just saying, oh, okay, that's what I have here. You know, I like making sure it's like makes sense from many angles instead of just the view, one up and down viewable angle. There we go. And yeah. My reasoning about making this one darker here on this edge is because, whoops, you can't even see it. Sorry. The reasoning behind me doing it darker on this edge is because this would be the shadow edge of his fur where it meets with the, you know, it's gonna, the bow tie and everything. So, I mean, you can do it in other places too, but I just kind of think that might look nicer there. I mean, a little bit of darkness there. There we go. It's a little bit thin here. Yeah, it's much better. Much, much better. It's okay if it's a little bit bolder too, because it's going to be a lot of it's going to be in shadow more than I would think. The other thing is, I'm going to kind of make this line a little bit more wiggly. It looks better. It actually looks better now with that extra additional lines. Yeah. I'm going to leave that be for a minute and come back, go up here to the ceiling tiles. Wow. The floor tiles back down here. Very carefully with a deep breath. Make sure I'm not blocking the camera again. Part of me is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to draw these tiles for the rest of the couple, because the rest of the issue is going to take place in this room now that she's here. But part of me is just like, look, you're not going to be looking at the floor the whole time. You're going to be looking at, you know, characters. I mean, the Cheshire Cat will be kind of a down shot for the most part because he's going to be a cat. But he can still technically climb up on stuff, so that actually might be rather amusing, come to think of it. Did kind of cheat with the perspective a little bit, meaning that I thought I had it right, and then I had to look up guides, realized I did it wrong, so then I did it right. And what I did was I taped with masking tape on the back of this a guide to help me with the tiles so that I wouldn't get the perspective all messed up, because I do want to at least look somewhat realistic. And at first I was like, who cares, it's Wonderland. And then I thought to myself, well, if I show these to anybody and they look at the tiles, the perspective, and they go, wait, the perspective is off, they're not going to say, they're not going to take the excuse, oh, it's Wonderland. The perspective can be off. They're going to look at it and go, oh, you don't know how to draw. So part of it's like, yeah, let me still consider it as being part of my portfolio, even though it's like, I don't want to be too obsessive, but I don't want to hurt my chances by having something that's weak in my weak pages because I didn't want to care about the perspective of stuff. I mean, I do care, but I don't want to obsess over every little detail. But that was an easy fix that I needed to learn how to do. One trick about perspective is with these uneven floor tiles, because it's kind of the tiles aren't perfectly aligned with the viewer; they're slanting away from him. And I didn't understand this, but all the lines still are equally spaced down here. In other words, there's a point here and a point here, because the perspective actually, I intentionally put it so that the eye line is here. So the viewer's eyes are above Allison's eyes. We're looking down on Allison over her shoulder. So all the lines you can actually see here, these lines go to here, and these lines go to here. So the actual eye line is somewhere here with the vanishing point somewhere off where you can't see, like right around here somewhere. I'm going to adjust the page accordingly. Somewhere around here. So that means the eye line is here. But that means everything, all the floor tiles, the lines, when you get to like here, like at the edge of the panel border, all of these floor tiles have an even spacing. This, it's going to be the same, all the lines are the same distance from each other. Which I didn't know, but it makes sense because if they're square, they would be the same distance. So there's little things you can do that make the ceiling tiles, the floor tiles, well, ceiling tiles too, if you were looking up at something. It makes it all make sense. Helps you keep the proportion and the balance right. And some of these I might not do with a brush, just because sometimes when I start charging into all black areas with a brush, I go, oh, la, 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 and then I plow into areas I shouldn't plow into, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't mean to color that with all the way over there. So sometimes I get a little bit lazy and careless with the brush when I do these big black areas. Okay, you can see. I was hoping I could. Another thing is I rarely push the brush away from me. Always drag the brush. See, I'm dragging it across. And always in motions that mimic this, an arc. And, like this is, it makes sense. Your elbow's the point. You can't really see my elbow, but the elbow's your point, and this is the radius. So you never want to be doing lines that curve this way. Rotate the paper and do it the other way around, because your arm wasn't built to curve towards itself. And I'm sure you could probably do an okay job with it, and after years of practice, you might be able to eyeball it every time and get it right. But you're just fighting against the nature of your own hand movements. Always move with your hand movements mimicking, approximately what. Okay, you can see it. For me, the camera's kind of backwards and reversed. I'm trying to debate whether I want to leave that white space so that pops it out some. I don't know. Let me wash the brush for the first time. Usually I'm washing the brush a lot more frequently than this, but it seems like the brush hasn't been getting dirty very much. It's been a very good night for the brush. It's been behaving really well. It might be because of the cooler temperatures and the fact that the sun is set, that there's usually have light streaming in from that way, from the bay windows. Well, sorry, not bay windows, French doors. Yeah, there's a lot of ink in this brush. You can always tell because when the brush soap gets that dirty that quickly, there is a lot of ink in the brush. And you don't want it to dry in the back of it because that could misshape your bristles. I'm just twisting the brush in there, by the way. Let me see if I can get you a good, well-lit view of that without spilling dirty brush soap onto my painting, which I've actually done one time. Spilled water on something that I was working on. I was like, crap! So I immediately dabbed out the paper, put it between two books, and flattened it. And the pages were still wrinkled. But you really couldn't tell once I photoshopped it and fixed it. So if you're seeing this, there's a page out there that I've sent to someone that was ruined by water that I was able to rescue. And since I only worked for one comic, I think you know what it was. But hey, I got it to work. I felt like an idiot. I was like, oh, I just spilled water on the page. But I was able to rescue it because it wasn't seriously damaged. The water wasn't very saturated with any kind of dirty ink or anything. So I was immediately able to dab it off, put it between two books, and it still did wrinkle a little bit, but not enough that really hurt the final product. So thank God for that. I was able to rescue the page, because it would have been humiliating to have to do the whole page over again because I accidentally spilled water on it. And if it had been noticeable, I would have said no, I'm doing it over. But the final page, once it was all cleaned up, you couldn't tell. So it wasn't worth the rework to do very minimal. You didn't see it in the final product. So I was like, I'm not going to worry about it. Had it been damaged, completely damaged, I would have said forget it, redo the page. But see, here's the guide I'm talking about. See, I printed out the whole page with black and white guides to show me. I built those in Illustrator, or did I build in Photoshop? Illustrator. And then, no, I built them in Photoshop. I'm sorry. I used the perspective tool. Or did I use it in? No, I used it in. I did build them in Illustrator. My apologies. Then I used the perspective tool to warp the. I basically built floors in perfect squares, and then put them into perspective so they match the horizon lines and the vanishing lines that I already had established. Which took me a while of negotiating, and I wish I would have known my other trick about, parallel lines equal that they match up, and that would have saved me so much time. Now this is even the one where I hold my breath, because this is the white rabbit, and I don't want to obliterate his foot while I put in the black of the tile he's standing on. Oh yeah, I got to clean up. There's a line when I ruled in my panel borders, I goofed and put a line in there, right there. You can't really see it. I don't have to Photoshop that out. I was going to put like whiteout on it, because that's what I usually do for pages, but I don't want whiteout on the Bristol page. And I can Photoshop it out and not have any fuss. The one thing that's going to be interesting is how I'm going to do the bottom panel. I envision these tiles as being marble, but you really can't see the texture from this far away. But I've got a big fat close-up of a tile back here, and I think I'm going to ink it with a lot of fun brushwork and put some marble veins in it. This is kind of the boring part where I'm like, oh, color, 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 color. And I might go ahead and skip back down to here again. I just want to get my eyes freshened up. It doesn't pay to keep your eyes staring at the same things and get obsessed about things that you shouldn't be obsessed about. I'm very much obsessed with detail. So much so that letting go sometimes is a hard part for me. I know sometimes it looks like I'm making stuff up as I go, and that's because I've gotten to the point where I can be comfortable with making stuff up as I go. Most of the time I'm so obsessed with every little detail and I'm freaking out. Like I'm working on this drawing of a friend, and I must have redrawn her head like 3 or 4 times by now. And that's why sometimes I don't draw certain people, because I'm so intimidated by the fact that I want to get it perfect that I don't want to risk getting it wrong, that I don't even try. Maybe a mistake, but I'd rather do something when I'm comfortable doing it. That's why a lot of my self-portraits in college were fairly successful, got me fairly successful grades. And I'm not trying to boast. It's just somebody had once looked at one of my self-portraits and said, "Wow, you painted that. Looks like you painted that. You didn't even care." And I said, "That's because I didn't. Because I'm not wrapped up in making myself look beautiful. I'm wrapped up myself in making a strong image with my face. So I don't obsess about every little detail. I just go to town and paint." And the funny part is, this practice sketch I did actually got a better grade than the actual final product, because the practice sketch, I was just like, I'm going to paint myself. And then my final grade, I obsessed too much about getting every little detail right, and it was not as successful. But see, that's what happens in the end. When I make stuff up as I go, I do better than what I do when I try to concentrate on stuff. So some people are like, why don't you do this more? Why don't you? Because I probably don't want to have to worry about a deadline where I'm obsessing about every little detail. I probably just want to make it up as I go at the end and then wind up being good, because that's the way I got to work good under pressure in that sense. All right. Yeah, I'm going to go down here to the marble. I'm kind of bored doing tiles. And I might go ahead and do a little bit of black here to kind of help this bow set in there more. All right, so it's going to be... I kind of slanted the little marble veins so that it's going to make sense. Because it's going to, I mean, yeah, marble veins usually feather in one direction, but also, too, the tile's slanted, so I should be seeing, veins that mostly slant in one direction, because they're going to kind of do that thing. And do that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I don't like the fact that that looks like a parallel line. Oh, that's good. That's pretty nice. Adding a few more touches and then just like another thing is I'm trying to debate whether I want to make this black or if I want to like leave that and color it and lay it in a different stage. Part of me wants to just do it in black and get it over with, so I've got something. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. His teeth are kind of not lined up. That's better. Yeah, I think when I color it in, I'll know what to do with that. I'm almost done with the brushwork on this page. It's almost just line work now because I'm gonna do these things with circle templates. These little guys here and the buttons, the boutonniere things. Well, actually, I'm gonna do these with a brush if I can manage it because I look like they're sewing stitches, and if I do it with a ruler, they won't look like sewing stitches. It'll just look like somebody just drew 2 lines on a jacket. All right, back to 4 tiles. And I might do some of the lines. I got my ruler out so I could do some of the line work. I mean, it's not much to it. I just take a ruler and drop in some lines with a brush. Not brush. Wow. With some of the Copic multi-liners I have. I'm still debating whether I want to leave that white line or not. I've never been successful with that white line. So I'm like, do I want to leave it there or not? If it doesn't look good, I can always ink it out later. On a side note, sometimes I'm hesitant to give friends advice because I don't know where they are in their life, like personal advice. Kind of a random thing to have to say, but it's true. Sometimes I'm like, if I tell them this and they're at this stage in their life, they're going to go this way with it, and I don't mean them to. So sometimes I keep clam up when I can speak up and help a friend because I'm afraid if I say the wrong thing to a friend that doesn't need to hear what I'm about to tell them, I'm afraid I'm going to throw them off the course because I don't know where they are in their lives to tell them advice with flawless expertise. So sometimes if I don't mention something on these videos, let me know because I don't know where you're coming from and I don't know what you need. Again, I'm not really doing these videos for people per se. I kind of am, but I kind of not. I mean, if no one watches, I'm still doing them. So I'm not doing this to gain an audience or anything. I'm glad I do have people that watch. I'm extremely happy that when I look up and I'll see if there's a viewer watching or whatever, I'm extremely happy. Believe me. And there's also people that watch the videos that don't have time to watch them live. And a lot of times it's just my friends, but I don't care if it's friends, if it's people I don't know, if it's people that are interested in my comic, or people that found me in an art form that are like, wow, I wanted to see how he does stuff. I don't care. I'm happy for everyone that comes. How you came, I'd love to know the story, but it's not important. The important thing is if I'm working on these videos and I can offer some kind of word of advice or some kind of like point or tip or something like, wow, you just breezed over that and I have no idea what that meant. Let me know if you can. I mean, I post links on Twitter. I post links on YouTube. Well, actually, you don't see it. I don't post a link on YouTube. It is on YouTube. And I also post links on, I used to do DeviantArt. I mean, I still got my DeviantArt account, but I never post links on it anymore because my computer epically does not want to accept that DeviantArt is a website that works. Also, I do Facebook. I'm a member of several groups on Facebook. Most of them art groups. I have my own art page too. So again, if you follow any of those, you may have gotten spammed like 4 times with this link for this video. It's like, surprise, I'm doing a video. Oh yeah, I'm doing a video. By the way, did I mention I'm doing a video? That's literally what happens sometimes when I share these videos. For that, if you got it 4 times, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to spam you. I just don't know who sees what. I mean, literally, the places I share them, there are people that are uniquely at some places that aren't in others. So, if I share it like 4 times, it's because there are people in each group of those 4 that don't see the other 3. And then there's people that see all 4. And again, if you get spammed, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a jerk to say, hey, look over here, hey, look over here, hey, look over here. But I don't know who's seeing what where. I don't know who my viewers are, if I have viewers. So I don't know where you're coming from. And so I just share it to everywhere and also too, some people I think want to watch, just don't have the opportunity to watch because the timing of it's poor. I mean, I ink it, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in an afternoon on a Friday. And 90% of the time, I mean, I have friends in Sacramento, that's when they're at work. I have friends here in South Carolina, they're probably at work at those times too. My wife doesn't watch the videos because she's at work too. She watches them sometimes when she gets home, she'll watch excerpts. And I don't expect anybody to watch the whole video all the way through. My goodness, it must be internally boring, as I say every video. To watch the whole thing after the fact. Live is a little bit different because it's exciting. I like watching live stuff. But some things I watch live I'd never watch recorded. A lot of sporting events that way. I'm much of a sports guy, but man, I would rather watch a sporting. I could never watch a tape football game. I'm like, why am I watching this? This has already happened. And sometimes I'll look at my videos just to see how it looks like from your point of view. Like I'll pull them up out to the fact and say, okay, what is this like? Skip ahead. Oh, neat. I can skip ahead and this is what it looks like for the people. Again, I probably obsess over more detail than I should. But I really care. I mean, I really care that if somebody is watching, that I'm putting out something that's quality, interesting, and helps you learn stuff. And I'm hoping I'm teaching somebody something. I had a friend of mine at work that's like, I don't know anything about art, but man, I sure learned a lot from watching your videos. I'm like, I hope you did. I don't know if I'm showing anything of value. My goal is to do value, but I can't tell sometimes. This is where I need to have a balance. This is the part of the show where he second guesses his whole decision about doing these videos. No, I'm not second guessing it. I mean, I should say questions his ability to put out quality content. I'm always rotating this just so I can get the best angle on the. I'll rotate a canvas like this too. I haven't painted in ages, but you should watch. I mean, if I'm going to do a live painting demo, probably Sunday afternoon. Just traditionally, my wife does work anyway, so I can kind of hole myself up in her room and in her office where she won't be working this Sunday. And while she's doing her work, I can paint for a little while. That almost finishes up that panel, except now I got to do the door, which is probably going to get mostly. Is it the right one? No, it's not the right one. I have to rotate. So I've got the panel of the, what do you call that? The doorway, which is going to be mostly ruler work. And I've just got these guys to do, and then everything else will be ruler work, ruler and pen, and guides. Yeah, I kind of like that white line. I'm not going to do it here because there's not as much black going on there. Same here. There's not as much. Well, let's still leave a little bit of line there. Yeah. So I mean, with this, your eye's going to naturally follow the line down. That's why I'm not worried about this tile, because your eye's going to naturally follow the curve of her arm down. You're not going to need a separating line. Where things get a little bit confusing, sometimes I like leaving a little bit of a white line so that I can tell you kind of where it is. So you can obviously see, okay, this is where her shoulder turns and all that good stuff. And this is the tricky part. I'm trying to determine what I meant by some of the lines so I can help continue whatever it was I was describing in the first place. And actually, come to think of it, what time is it? Wow, is it that late already? Sorry, it's like slice of life there. I was shocked. I intended to only do about an hour's worth of video, and it's almost been an hour. I can't believe it. Sometimes the time flies when I do these videos. Maybe I don't work fast as I think I do. Maybe it's just that time flies when I'm having fun, in a sense. Oops, made a little bit of wobbly line. Probably be cropped out anyway. Don't know if I should be worried about it. All right. I'm going to try to use up the rest of this ink, and then I'm going to call it an evening. It's weird to say call it an evening. So my wife's due home from her event anytime soon, and I don't want to be like, oh, hey, be quiet. I'm in the middle of live broadcasting. That'd be extremely weird. Oops, got a wobbly line again. I'm kind of trying to rush now, so that's part of it. But again, that's something I can clean up in the stages, later stages. You're seeing the top of my head again. I'm sorry, folks. Oh, dear. Oh, well. I colored in the back tile the wrong color from earlier. Oh, well. I don't think you're going to notice it. I think you're just going to think it's part of the outline of her head. Because it's so tiny at that point, you're not even going to notice it. You're just like, oh, I guess that was part of another tile or something. And it's going to kind of go, probably go unnoticed. Well, the ink's about dried up. Let me actually finish up these tiles. I said I was going to finish up the ink, but I think I'm going to finish up the tiles instead since I'm so close. And then all I really have to do would be a couple lines with the ruler, a couple lines with the circle guide to get the buttons down here. And this page is almost officially done. Yay, thrilling for checkerboard patterns, right? But kind of tricky stuff. But shouldn't be much longer to finish these tiles. The hard part's going to be concentrating to make sure I color the right parts of the tiles and the right tiles. That's going to be the hard part. Considering I just accidentally colored the wrong one earlier. Luckily, it may not even matter. And if it does matter, I can always clean it up later again. That's the beauty of this when it's fully finished and scanned. You know, you make corrections. White brush, black brush, Photoshop. That's all you do. That's why I'm not super worried if there's anything that's like seriously wrong. It's only when you have entangling lines that things get really problematic. It's only when you get those tangling lines where you have to sort stuff out. You're like, what goes to what now? That's where things get really tricky. By the way, if you watched my earlier color mixing demo, I did finally get the white tube of paint open. but it required me breaking the top of the, of the tube of paint. I didn't break it off, but it's basically like a mushroom shape, and I broke off the head of the mushroom essentially. So I've still got the cap that works, but it's only like the stem of the mushroom. So getting it on and off is going to prove to be quite a challenge from now on. So it might wind up being that I get a new tube of white paint. I mean, I still got it closed now, technically. And it'll close airtight enough to keep the air from getting in for it to dry out, but if I leave it standing for too much longer, I don't think I'll be able to get it open ever again. The only last resort would be to puncture the tube and take as much paint as I could out. And I don't want to do that because that puts a ticking time bomb in how much you can use before it dries out. And I'd rather not intentionally waste an entire tube of paint. Not that it's super expensive, it's just super wasteful. And if I'd gotten it open earlier, I'd been doing a painting demo, but as it looks like I'm going to do on Sunday. Which I'm kind of excited about because I haven't painted in so long. Kind of weird. I've got a lot of enthusiasm with my paintings, and part of me is like, maybe I should be painting more. It's just a pain because it takes a long time to set stuff up, and my wife saw the other room like after I got everything all set up. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you're taking over my office," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, honey. We'll tear that down soon." There's really no other place to paint except here in the kitchen. I don't want the turpentine floating around the kitchen if I can help it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now all I gotta do is the line work, and it's good to go. I'm just taking a little bit of the extra ink that's left over and kind of darkening out some of the lines. Probably doesn't really need it. But, there's no point in letting the ink go to waste either. Yeah, it's about good. There's a couple of spots here and here, a couple of spots there. And I'm gonna not care about that one panel where I kind of had the floor tile messed up because it's almost not gonna matter. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself about what I want to do. This is my sophisticated art bag where I keep my blue pencil. These are the blue pencils I sketch with. They're not. They actually say non-photo blue pencils from the time when you couldn't photocopy these. With today's scanners, you can, but they're still called non-photo blues because years ago they couldn't. The blue wouldn't be showing up on scanners and copiers. They've long since circumvented that problem, but they still are called non-photo blues from the time when they you wouldn't be able to reproduce them. And I do like what happens with the blue pencils. You do kind of ignore the pencils once the inks are down. I do like the effect that blue pencils do give to a page. I am not probably going to ink the doorways. That's going to be another frustrating cycle that I don't want to involve a live video in. Well, maybe I should just show you what kind of a struggle it is, so you know, okay, I'm not the only one that struggles with these sorts of things. But I don't know. Circle template time. Let me just flip it over. I like using the same circle template for both size buttons. Gives me a feeling consistency. Now there's a little tiny button that goes there. That one. See, now we got my little buttons. Well, not my little buttons, but the white rabbit. I might make them a little bit thicker on the button. I don't know, because you're gonna still see it, but it just looks a little bit too precious, a little bit too perfect. A little bit thicker at the top and the bottom. That was kind of not my goal, but oh well. It looks much better with a thicker line, though, that's for sure. Oh, you see me top of my head again. See? It's a lot better with a bigger, bolder line. Yeah, it's much better. All right. These little hold back things. Hold the curtains back. And then the same thing happens here. Not the most beautiful looking line. There we go. All right. Sometimes I'll use this line tool, this template for the line tool as well. And I'm trying to determine if I want to do this with a curve, like a circle. I might. And then connect it up with this eyeballing it. There we go. A little bit wobbly at points, but it is an old door, so I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm that worried about it. Okay. There we go. Again, I think about these things probably longer than I should. Let's see. There we go. There we go. There we go. A little bit wobbly on that part of the line. I probably should draw the curves first, then worry about the other things. And let's see what we got here. Trying to find a curve that mimics it pretty well. Yeah, that's pretty good. There we go. That's basically like the door. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. And there's a couple there's like little iron things, like little iron nails that hold things in place. So I'm going to kind of eyeball where they go instead of worry about the penciling. Like that. See, like they're like little nails driven in the door. And there are two lines that I need to put in there. One is kind of parallel to the line of the molding. And that one's here. There's like two dots here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's actually 8. But so her eyes, her eye is the level of that. So So there's that. There's two really quick ones. Another doorknob there. There's 1, 2, and there's 1, 2, 3, and this is where the line is for that other thing. So we're going to do this. I'm going to block that in there. And then there's like one right beneath the doorknob, so we're going to fit that in there. And then we got that. So that's kind of like making up the door frame. I don't think anybody's going to notice that there's any continuity flaws with the door, but I like making sure it matches up what's on the other side. All right, well, that's going to be it for this video for right now. This is kind of as far as I got with the page. Let me hold it up here. I'm going to do the rest of the stuff over time, so it won't be long before it's up and probably inked. I'll do that. I'm deciding I'm going to do that bottom part here, where I'm not going to black that in. I'm just going to do that with the coloring stages. And then I just got to do the door, and then any of the cleanup work. And of course, her panel. I forgot about the panel border here. But that's going to be a simple thing. I always use the biggest, fattest pen when it comes to doing the panel borders, just because I don't want to sit here all day and draw panel borders. And I want to take the smallest possible pen and do that. But I literally just like run a pen along it a couple times. Just simple stuff. Trying to get a nice size buildup on it. I just rotate. Rinse, repeat sort of situation. One of those lather, rinse, repeat kind of situations. Probably saw a big view at my top of my head. I wasn't even paying attention. I'm going to scoot it back just a little bit more, just so I can get another pass. It's a little bit, nope, a little bit more. It's always a guessing game with how far back to set the ruler so you do not get the same pass every time, and also add something to the passes without going too far that you make the line too wide. All right, and we'll rotate. This should get me a nice fat line on this side, and I just have to go in the middle very carefully. Yeah, this is going to be about ready to go. Because that was the last panel board, and I hate panel borders. Like, I mean, with a new pen, it's not so bad. With an old pens I've used for a while, like I've used these Copic multi-liners to death. I don't have to beg my wife for next time she doesn't order that she remembers to tell me when she goes to Amazon. Like, really super neat new pen. I'm going to get one of those refillable multi-liners. And, oops, missing a big fat close-up of my head again. This page is not going to need that much cleanup, actually, which is kind of good. I was hoping to get zero cleanup, but there we go. So there's all the panel borders done. Now I just got to finish out the door and scan it and clean it up. Anyway, thanks for tuning in again. I'll be doing more videos, like I said, probably Sunday. I'll probably do a Trixie page because I'm nowhere near having another page for Allison Zombieland right now. I'm looking at the pages. I'm not seeing very many spoilerific pages. I might have to talk to the editor, Ben Schwartz, See if he's the editor of Trixie Dynamite. See if there's any kind of issues with me doing the pages because they don't look very spoilerific. They just look like they're storytelling pages that you're missing dialogue on, and the dialogue is, I think, what carries the story. And so, because I'm not able to tell this story from the pages, or at least nothing that's going to be like ruined if you have to buy it. I mean, even page 7 doesn't look very spoilerific. Page 8 doesn't look spoilerific. It just, I think the humor of the story is in the dialogue, which I'm missing. So I don't think you're gonna miss anything if I do show that. Anyway, yeah, I'll do more. Like I said, I'll probably do a painting demo Monday, Sunday. Another inking demo probably Friday next week. Again, I'll try to do announcements for it. Sometimes YouTube doesn't let me go online, and sometimes I think about doing these things in my pajamas. I really don't feel really good broadcasting live in my pajamas. So if I have done these videos without announcing them before, probably it's because I thought about doing the announcement while I was in my pajamas, and I said no. They're Star Wars pajamas though, so they're kind of awesome. But anyway, nobody wants to see a 30-year-old man online in his pajamas on YouTube. No. So if I do an announcement, I will be probably shooting out links. It'll probably Sunday afternoon and Friday. Anyway, I'll keep posted. I usually talk about what I might do on Twitter, just see if I get any feedback from any of the artists that follow me. And again, thanks for following me. Thanks for watching the video, and thanks for thanks to the people that are watching me live, and also thanks to the people that are going to be watching this later on YouTube. I appreciate all your support, and thank you so much for watching. Okay, I think it's going to extra innings again, which is doing that thing where it doesn't stop. If you